China is considering providing military assistance to Russia in their ongoing conflict in Ukraine. This development could have serious consequences for the region and the world. As tensions between Russia and the West continues to escalate, the situation in Ukraine is becoming increasingly volatile. We'll be discussing the latest developments and what they mean for global security and stability. Russia has decided to withdraw from a crucial nuclear security agreement with the United States, raising its concerns about the future of global security. Specifically, Russia has announced that it will no longer participate in the Nuclear Security Summit that has been held every 2 years since 2010. This summit brings together world leaders to discuss ways to prevent nuclear terrorism and safeguard nuclear materials. Russia's relationship with treaty has been somewhat contentious in recent years, with some officials expressing skepticism about the treaty's effectiveness and calling for Russia to withdraw from the agreement, which they have now done. In a recent article, experts were interviewed to discuss the implications of Russia suspending its participation in the treaty, the last remaining nuclear weapons treaty between the US and Russia. The treaty allows each country to verify the weapons pact is being followed by inspecting the other country's nuclear arsenal multiple times each year. It also requires regular communications about an array of military equipment and operations to avoid misunderstandings or accidents. Russia and the US also holds the vast majority of the world's nuclear weapons. The interesting bit of the suspension is participation. If this move could result in a new nuclear arms race, and if we could potentially already be heading in that direction, but it really depends on what President Vladimir Putin means when he says that he is suspending their participation in New START treaty. Even though this development does not bode well for the future of arms control and keeping arms racing in check, we cannot know for sure the reasoning for Vladimir Putin's moves, but it's likely linked to Russia's perception of the US violating the treaty and their continuing support of Ukraine. This would make sense as the announcement came out when President Joe Biden was on a 4-day visit in Kyiv. This decision by Russia is particularly concerning, given the current geopolitical landscape, and could cause further problems as global tension rise in countries like Russia and China has become increasingly assertive on the global stage. A few experts note that nuclear weapons remain a major threat, and efforts to prevent nuclear terrorism and secure nuclear materials are more important than ever. The decision made by Vladimir Putin and Russia was also announced during a visit by Chinese officials, and that has also raised concerns about a potential shift in Russia's stance towards nuclear weapons. The move came also as a surprise to many, as it undermines years of efforts to promote nuclear security and disarmament. Russia has long been known for its extensive nuclear arsenal, and the country's leaders have made no secret of their willingness to use nuclear weapons to defend Russian interests. Their officials have repeatedly stated that they view nuclear weapons as a vital component of their country's defense strategy, and they have made significant investments in modernizing their nuclear capabilities in recent years. While Russia has not explicitly threatened to use nuclear weapons in the current conflict with Ukraine, the country's military doctrine does allow for the use of nuclear weapons in certain circumstances. Their nuclear strategy is based on the concept of escalation dominance, which is designed to give them an advantage in any conflict by threatening to use nuclear weapons early. As we go on, I want to know your opinions. How do you feel surrounding Vladimir Putin's decision? Is this going to cause an arms race between the superior countries? Let us know in the comments. What we've been talking about is highlighting the growing alliance between Russia and China, which could have serious implications for global security. The two countries have been working together more closely in recent years, including on military and economic matters. As the United States and other Western nations push back against Russia's aggressive behavior, China's support could further destabilize the region and complicate efforts to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. As well as the withdrawal from nuclear security, U.S. intelligence officials have reported that Russia is continuing to amass troops and military equipment near the border with Ukraine, raising its concerns about the potential for renewed hostilities between the two countries. The officials have also noted an increase in Chinese-made weaponry and ammunition being supplied to Russian troops and separatist groups in Ukraine. The buildup of Russian troops and equipment has been ongoing for several months and has drawn condemnation from Western countries, who fear that Russia may be planning another offensive in Ukraine. According to some sources, China may be providing Russia with advanced missile technology, including anti-ship missiles, which could be used to target Ukrainian naval vessels in the Black Sea. These reports suggest that China's assistance to Russia is motivated by a desire to strengthen their strategic partnership and counter Western influence. The reports from U.S. intelligence officials shows the growing role of China in supplying weapons and ammunition to Russian troops and separatist groups in Ukraine. While China has not taken any official stance on the conflict, the country has been eager to expand its influence around the world and has been seeking to increase its trade ties with Ukraine and other countries in the region. However, it is important to note that the relationship between Russia and China is complex, and there are also concerns about potential area of conflict between the two countries. For example, China has earlier expressed concern about Russian military activities in areas that could impact China's access to shipping lanes and natural resources. According to U.S. officials, there is evidence that China is providing military assistance to Russia. This involvement and assistance could have significant implications for the conflict, as well as for the broader geopolitical landscape. Some experts suggest that China's assistance to Russia could be motivated by a desire to counterbalance the United States' influence in the region or strengthen its own strategic partnership with Russia. We can deceive whether China is providing military assistance, but there is no official confirmation of these reports, and it is difficult to verify the extent of China's involvement in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. If China is providing Russia with military assistance, what does it mean for the peace plan that was announced by China, and what was reasoning behind it? President Joe Biden and the U.S. is not happy with China's involvements and has warned them that its support for Russia in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine would alienate them from the international community. The warning comes amid the rumors about China providing weapons and ammunition to the Russian troops and separatists. The broader context of the relationship between the United States and China, which is often described as a new type of Cold War. The tensions between the two countries continue to escalate, and the conflict in Ukraine could become a focal point for the competition and potential between the world's two largest superpowers. The United States has also been working to build a coalition of countries to pressure Russia to de-escalate the conflict and withdraw its troops and military equipment from the border with Ukraine. China's involvement could complicate these efforts and lead to wider conflict involving major world powers. In an interview with CNN, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan stated that they are deeply concerned about the ongoing military buildup by Russia near the borders of Ukraine. He has also expressed concern about China's involvement in the region, including its potential supply of weapons and ammunition. He also emphasizes with the importance of the United States and its allies to be working together to pressure Russia to de-escalate the conflict and withdrawal of its troops and military equipment, and the need for continued diplomatic efforts to address the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The situation surrounding China's potential involvement in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine highlights the complex relationships between major world powers and the potential for tensions and conflict in the pursuit of strategic interests. Despite its lack of official confirmation of China's military assistance to Russia, there are concerns that this assistance could be part of their broader efforts to counterbalance the United States' influence or strengthen their own strategic partnerships. It's February 2023, and the world is still reeling from the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Tensions have been running high, with multiple nations taking sides and providing support to either Ukraine or Russia. Amidst all this chaos, China has emerged as a major player, attempting to balance its interests and maintain its image as a responsible global power. On one hand, China has been providing diplomatic support to Ukraine, condemning Russia's actions and calling for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The Chinese government has even offered to mediate talks between the two sides, in the hopes of finding a mutually agreeable solution. However, on the other hand, China has potentially been providing military assistance to the Russian troops, and this could argue that it only escalates the conflict and puts more lives at risk. China's actions have caused a stir in the international community, with many questioning its true motives. Is China really trying to broker peace in Ukraine, or is it simply trying to profit from the conflict? Some speculate that China's ultimate goal is to expand its own influence in the region, using the conflict as an opportunity to establish itself as a major superpower on the world stage. The situation is complex and multifaceted, with implications for the broader geopolitical landscape and the balance of power between world powers. What do you think about China's potential involvements by providing Russian troops artillery and ammunition? Do you think that it could lead to further conflicts and instability in the region and beyond? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and make sure to hit that subscribe button to not miss out on any exciting content regarding the conflict between Ukraine and Russia.